Canadians in the former Liberal strongholds of Toronto and Montreal have now given their verdict. After 9 years, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost.
Pierre Poilievre, the fiery leader of the Conservative Party, hasn't held back, blasting Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for what he calls a complete failure. Poilievre has been sounding the alarm, claiming Trudeau just doesn't have what it takes to steer the country out of this mess. But what exactly gives Pierre Poilievre the idea to claim so confidently that Trudeau just doesn't cut it anymore, and that, after 9 long years, Canadians need to rise up and vote for a change?
Mr. Speaker, who could be against the following motion? That, given that, after 9 years, the government has doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, unleashed crime, and is the most centralizing government in Canadian history, the House has lost confidence in the government and offers Canadians the option to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
On his comeback to the Parliament after the infamous vacations, Trudeau did not have a really inspiring outing, with Pierre Poilievre welcoming him with some serious heat, followed by a vote of no confidence. Here is how it went down.
A carbon tax fraud has been perpetrated by this NDP Liberal Prime Minister, who kept secret Environment Canada documents that showed that the carbon tax was blowing a $25 billion hole in our economy. Our economy per capita is smaller today than it was 10 years ago, during which time the American economy has grown by 19%. Instead of a reckless plan to hike the tax to 61 cents a litre, why not allow Canadians to vote to axe the tax?
In a fiery debate, Pierre Poilievre came in hot and didn't hold back. He hit the ground running with revelations about the recent carbon tax scandal, revealing that it has cost the Canadian economy a massive $40 billion. In response, Trudeau attempted to retaliate, but the damage was already done.
Demonstrates that this government, this NDP Liberal government, has doubled housing costs. I found it interesting that the NDP has now discovered that they doubled housing costs. A second ago, a Montreal MP stood up to point to a young woman, Pascal, who can no longer afford to rent, much less to own, after housing costs have tripled.
In a sharp counter, Poilievre shot back, calling Trudeau a hypocrite. Yes, a hypocrite.
These slogans are clever, but they are empty, Mr. Speaker. It's empty rhetoric on the other side as always. In fact, he should take a look at the CMHC's report from today that puts a spotlight on Montreal, 106% increase in rental construction. Why is that, Mr. Speaker? Because GST has been waived by this government to ensure greater supply, to incent builders during a difficult time. He has no idea how to incent that sector. He's good at running around.
Instead of coming up with a reasonable argument, Prime Minister Trudeau seemed caught off guard. And when things got heated, Trudeau fired back, accusing Poilievre of always turning tail and running.
I will comment on one spectacular social housing project of his, and that is the brand new lavish apartment that he bought his friend, the new Consul General to New York. $9 million for his friend Tom Clark to have stunning powder room finished in jewel onyx, crystallo gold quartzite countertops, a handcrafted copper soaking tub, custom bronze bathroom fixtures.
Poilievre then exposed the government's controversial purchase of a luxury property in New York. What really shocked everyone was that Poilievre had all the juicy details, right down to the eye-popping expenses involved in the lavish purchase, from the expensive flooring to the outrageous costs of bathtubs and other expenditures.
Mr. Speaker, don't worry, on this side of the House, we're used to casual homophobic comments from the other side of the House. Mr. Speaker, what is it about the...
Trudeau was visibly uneasy, fumbling for words, and in an attempt to shift the focus, he accused Poilievre of making homophobic remarks about the controversial bathtub incident.
We all treat each other with the presumption of honor and respect, and I'll ask the Prime Minister to please withdraw that comment and to start his comment again under the colleagues.
But his comeback fell flat, and Speaker Fergus wasn't having it either. He called out Trudeau for his inflammatory comments, asking him to withdraw his words.
Standing up to bullies requires us to call them out on their crap sometimes, and that's what I will do.
Instead of backing down, Trudeau doubled down, throwing more shade by calling Poilievre a bully, and even using the word crap to describe him.
I will happily withdraw my comment if the member who suggested that I was sharing a bathtub with Tom Clark stands up, takes responsibility for his...
When things escalated, Trudeau hesitantly agreed to accept withdrawing his words, but he still had the audacity to put a condition, asking Poilievre to stand up and take responsibility for his allegations.
I withdraw the comment about defecating. I certainly, using the word crap, I shouldn't use that. I know crap is unparliamentary, but I will also, Mr. Speaker, when someone says something that is clearly homophobic.
But under immense pressure, Trudeau ultimately had no choice but to backtrack and withdraw his remarks.
Parliament is paralyzed, unable to work on the problem of doubling housing costs or 2 million people at the food bank because the government is refusing to respect your ruling.
On the other hand, Poilievre has posed some serious questions on the Trudeau-led government that has just paralyzed the Parliament.
In the criminal investigation of the latest Liberal scandal, at issue is that Liberal appointees directed $400 million to companies they own, involving 184 conflicts of interest, according to the Auditor General. Why is the Prime Minister breaking your ruling to cover up criminal evidence in the latest...
The NDP Liberal government has once again proven itself unworthy of the cost. Recently, the Speaker of the House ruled that the government blatantly violated an order to provide evidence for a criminal investigation tied to their latest $400 million scandal. According to the Auditor General's investigation, Liberal appointees funneled nearly $400 million in taxpayer money into their own companies, with more than 186 conflicts of interest uncovered.
Conservative government that will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
Mr. Speaker, I am so glad to have the chance to talk about the economy. That is because today we had good news for Canadians. Inflation is back down to where it was before COVID hit.
This incompetent finance minister would tell you that you should celebrate that after prices rising faster than at any time in 40 years, they continue to rise, just not as quickly.
Even during the vote of no confidence, Poilievre didn't waste any time tearing their arguments from the finance minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think we all know why the Conservatives are so panicked about inflation. It's because they can see that the economic news is good. They can see that we are now back to exactly where we were before COVID hit.
Chrystia Freeland tried to take a shot at the opposition, accusing them of panicking over Canada's economic outlook.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The bad news is we now have 1,800 homeless encampments in Ontario. 35 in Halifax alone. 2 million Canadians lined up at food banks after 9 years of NDP Liberal government. And now that we learn that on top of the $25 billion annual hit of the first carbon tax to our GDP, the second carbon tax will subtract another $9 billion a year, over $35 billion.
But Poilievre, with his sharp debating skills, didn't let it slide. He quickly turned the tables, calling out Freeland for relying on half-baked statistics.
The Liberals have let people down again and again, and they are done. It's clear from the results of the election last night. The Liberals are done. Maybe it's because they keep on teaming up with the Conservatives to let greedy CEOs continue to rip off Canadians. In fact, inflation numbers show that grocery greed...
Just when the government was having a hard time seething the leader of opposition, now was the turn of leader of New Democratic Party, Jagmeet Singh, to tease the government over the recent electoral loss. He went down to criticize both the government and the opposition for protecting the interest of the rich. From no-confidence motions and scandals to losing long-held seats, like the one in Montreal. Liberals are surely having a rough time in government right now. Let us know in the comments below what you think the main reasons are.